Welcome back to LewyT Amusement Academy Part 9. Today we're going to learn about health and damage. We will set up a health bar for our character and then introduce some kind of damaging effect so we can see the health bar go down. Okay, what we're going to do today is learn about health and damage. The idea is that you have a player character. You might want to have a challenge for that character to overcome. There can be lots of different kinds of challenges, but one very common challenge in a video game is like a danger, something that can hurt your character. And so for that to work, we need something to be hurt. One thing we can do is give our character a health bar. So let's do that now. There's lots of health bars available. If we go to the Asset Store web, it's funny that CodeMonkey has an ad because if we search for health bar, as I have before, I like to pick free because there's plenty of free ones available. One of the ones I've used in the past is by CodeMonkey. This health bar is just super simple and it doesn't require any code because the code has already been made, and you can just set it up on your character. However, it's just this little rectangular bar. Let's go ahead and try it. So I'm going to go ahead and show you this one. Okay, this is the health system by CodeMonkey. We want to import into the project. I've covered the downloading and stuff in the past, so I hope you can find your way through that. I'm going to go ahead and re-import everything. This particular component is maybe a little bit out of date. It says some of the project source files refer to API that has changed. So when it says that, I go ahead and say yes, but just for these, you could probably safely click the first button, but I'm going to click the second. And when that's done importing, we can go to the Assets CodeMonkey folder inside the project. Inside that is the health system. So CodeMonkey has a lot of other products, so health system is just one of them. There's prefabs, so there's two main prefabs, and these are the health bar itself. There's the health bar UI, that's the kind that we're looking for, just a health bar that appears for your own character. And then there's health bar world canvas. It can appear anywhere in the game, like associated with another character, like an enemy or something. So I will go ahead and use the first one. This is a UI element that it needs to be on a canvas. So I already have a canvas for my win panel and could hold all kinds of other items. So I'm going to go ahead and drag it onto the canvas. And let's go back to the game view and we'll see it. There it is. Maybe you don't want it right there in that spot. It's got an X, Y, and Z position. I'm going to just change all those to 0 just so it see where it appears after that. Okay. I'm pretty sure we don't want it in the very middle. My personal preference is to put it down in the bottom left corner. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this gizmo, Alt-Shift, and go to the bottom left corner. That works pretty well. You can do a number of other things to this health bar to make it work for your character. I opened up the hierarchy of the health bar itself. It's got the main parent item, it's got a background item, and a bar item. The top level object has the script on it. The background is this gray background, and then the bar is what gets bigger or smaller depending on how much health you have, and that is red with a black outline. We could put different images in there to make it look a little bit different. But for now, I just want to control this. I'm going to set this up in a way that makes the most sense for my game. So as you can see in the rect transform of the parent object, it has a width of 200 and a height of 30. Width is how long the bar is. I really want it a little bit bigger. I'm going to try 300. Do 300, there it is, and as you can see, it made the whole bar bigger, but it also made the red part bigger by like the same percentage. Let's say you wanted your health bar to be the whole width of the screen. Gizmo, Alt-Shift, and then this button over here. Boom, it's the full width of the screen, no matter what how big or small the screen is, it will scale. What if we don't want a horizontal bar, we want a vertical bar? So instead of the left, the bottom stretch, we'll do Alt-Shift, and we'll do left. And sure enough, it stretches it vertically, but it just basically fills up the whole screen because it did not change the width. The width is still the full screen, and now the height is also the full screen. Okay, so that's not going to work, so I'm going to do it back to the middle, and then do 300 by 30. Part of what was wrong is we didn't rotate it to be in the right spot. So I'm going to go to rotation, and I think it's the Z rotation that we need. Yeah, that rotates it. So I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees, and now it's a vertical. Now we can go ahead and Alt-Shift and put it on the left side of the screen. It looks a little bit funny because it went over the edges just a little bit. It also didn't go in the middle like I thought it was going to. So I'm going to go to bottom left. It looks even weirder. So this is just an issue that it wasn't designed to be in a vertical orientation, so it just doesn't work quite right that way. So I'm going to go ahead and change it back to bottom left and rotate it back to the horizontal. I do want to show you how to get this set up to work the right way, just in case you do like this kind of a health bar. So as you can see, this bar has this health bar UI script on it and a game object, which says get health system game object. So there's a script in the scripts folder. There is a health system component, and I'm going to go to the clear capsule, which has all of our other components, and I'm going to put this health system component on that character. Now we're going to go back to the health bar in the UI and drag our character, the clear capsule, into that object slot. And now if we go back to the player, this health will be represented in the health bar. Now it isn't right now because we're not actively playing the game. We're not in play mode. There's this max value, which is like but if the bar is all the way full, it's representing 100 points. And then the starting health amount is 0. 0 just means whatever it is to be if it's full. I know that seems a little bit confusing, but I guess it assumes that like 0 is never actually, you would never want to start off with 0 health. So if you set it as 0, then it will automatically change to the whatever your maximum amount is. But if you want it to be some other number, like say 75, it'll be 75. Now it's not yet because we're not play mode, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so we're in play mode. We have this little bar. It now looks like 75% of that amount. So let's go ahead and go back to the character. If we want the maximum to be a different number, let's say we'll make it 200, and we're going to keep the 75, and so 75 out of 200 is no longer like 75%, it's actually less than. Okay, so that number is a little confusing now. I think maybe it's the percentage. I think in general it's best to just use 0. And there's, in order to actually apply the damage, you're still going to need to do some scripting, putting the damage actions in a script. So because we have to do some scripting, I'm going to go ahead and use a different health bar that I like a little bit better. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and delete this health bar out of the hierarchy. I'm also going to delete the CodeMonkey folder out of my project. If you have something besides the health system that you're using, then don't delete the whole CodeMonkey folder. Just delete whatever you're not using. For me, it's the whole folder for now. And I'm doing this just for general maintenance to make sure I don't have a bunch of stuff in my project that I'm not using. It is very easy to accumulate lots of unneeded packages in your project. Okay, so let's go back to the asset store, search for health bar. We can go ahead and set price to free, but it found the one that I've already got. I've already purchased it. It's called Sleek Essential UI Pack. So I've already got this, but we'll go ahead and open it in Unity. I've already actually downloaded it and imported it, but you know how to do that. Download and import. And where it ends up is in UI Pack. The folder is just called UI Pack. And prefabs is where you will find the different options. So there's more than just a health bar in here. But so if you go into UiPack prefabs bars, there's several bars, and there's even two that say health bar. The one with the space is the one I like, but you can experiment with all of them as you wish. I'm going to go ahead and put this bar on my canvas. Go to the game view. There it is. It's kind of cool looking. So it's this pink little circle bar with a heart in the middle. Okay, and as usual, it didn't place it in exactly the right spot that I would like it. So we will rearrange it to the bottom left. We can scale it down a little bit. Whoa, not that much. I don't know. To me, that looks pretty good. This bar is set up a little bit different than the CodeMonkey health bar. It's got its top level parent object, a background, and an image. The image is just that heart. The background, let's just turn that off so you can see what is the background. There, it's like the kind of a see-through circle in the back behind the real health bar. You can think of it as the 100% thing, and so if you're at 100%, it's completely covered up. But here's the thing, is it's actually in front of, called the background, but it's actually in front of the bar, because the parent is always in the back compared to its children. There may be a way to fix that, but this is the way this one's designed, and it looks fine that way. And the main parent is the part that gets bigger and smaller. Now, I want to show you how that works. This fill amount on the image of the parent object makes this bar go around. Now, why it goes in a circle like that is the image type and the fill method. Image type is filled. If you just did simple, it would just be 100% full all the time. It wouldn't be able to be used as a bar in that way. Sliced is a different option. Tiled, as you can see, it repeats the image, which isn't what we want, but filled is. And then the different fill methods, there's horizontal. Let me show you what horizontal would do. Just goes from left to right, regardless of the shape of the circle. Vertical is, as you might imagine, going up and down. Radial 90, basically it's starting in the bottom left corner where there isn't actually anything to show, but you can kind of see it kind of wipes across the screen from that corner. And then radial 180 starts in the bottom middle and wipes across the top, and then comes back to the bottom. Radial 360 is what it came with standard, and it starts in the middle, but it's like a pie slice going around and starting at the bottom, where you could choose if you wanted to start in different places. I think the bottom is probably what makes the most sense. Now, personally, one thing I don't like about this health bar is the default color. What I want to do is change this color. So what we could do is we can say, well, we could make it bright red. But even when I choose bright red, it doesn't quite look bright red. It's still got this little bit of a pink color. And the reason is because the image, the source image itself, is a pink color. So I'm going to go ahead and choose a different source image. So this is the one, you can see it's selected. This is the one that's on already. I want actually to probably do a green color. I'm selecting that. It doesn't change it very much. It's still kind of pink. That's because I've chosen to make the green circle red, which doesn't make sense. And I can choose a green, and it still doesn't look quite as green as what I'm selecting. Let me show you why. If we go to the background, let's say we just turn off the background temporarily, suddenly that regular health bar color is a bright green that I selected. The reason is because this background was actually in front, and so it's affecting the color of what shines through. So I'm going to choose that one. I'm going to choose another color. Maybe I can do the green again. But green on green, while it does look more green, it's a little bit hard to see, especially when the ground is also green. So I want to do a yellow, and then the color I'm going to choose is more of a red color. So you can definitely tell where the regular bar stops. The red means you've been damaged that much. Pretty happy with that color. We go back to the main bar. I can, I've chosen a bright green, but on the screen it's actually a little bit less bright. In fact, I want it to be more kind of the color of the character. So I've just kind of eyeballed it. That looks pretty good to me. Now here's the thing, is this heart image doesn't look quite right. So I'm going to change its color. And to make it match, I'm going to use this little color picker, eyedropper type of symbol. Click on that. And then wherever I click, it will choose the color of that pixel. I'm going to click on this bar. Even though that bar is a combination of other colors, it's going to use that combination. And now the heart is that color. And let's say I think, well, maybe that still isn't quite bright enough, so we'll just make it a little bit brighter, but still that general color. So now we have our very appropriately colored health bar for our little green slime. I want to do some organization. I've just been using this nested parent capsule unpack. I think I want to reorganize and make my player not a child of that object, but just out in the hierarchy at the top level. So if you just try to drag it out, it gives you an error. It says this nested parent capsule unpack is a prefab, and so all these pieces are kind of locked in there, but they don't have to be. So what you can do is go to the top level of the prefab, right click, go to the prefab setting, and then unpack. Now I can move my player capsule out. Everything else is still in there, but that's fine. I've got this random name generator script on my character just for testing. I'm going to go ahead and remove that. You can watch a video that I have on my YouTube channel about that random name script. I think everything else here is fine. I do see some missing scripts here. Oh, I know. These missing scripts were from the CodeMonkey script that I put on there. So I'm going to go ahead and remove them. I want to go ahead and change the name to player. A little bit easier to clearly see that this is the player character. Okay, so here's what we're going to try to do is we want to make a script that will go on the player character that will hold the information about its health. Similar to the CodeMonkey one, it will have like a maximum health, so it knows what the maximum amount can be, and then what the current health is. And then maybe some other stuff depending on, like if you go down to 0, what happens? That's all would be handled by the script. Now I could go ahead and make just a player script that's meant specifically for this character. But then if I want any other characters to also have the same functionality, I need to add that script or make a new script for those characters, and it might be confusing if I have a script that's called player and it's being applied to a non-player. So instead, I'm going to make a script and we're going to call it character. So all the characters in the game will have this script on it, and we'll make it general enough so that it makes sense for any character. Character is not a script in the system yet, so I'm going to have to click New Script and then Create and Add. It asks me where I want to put it. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the same place as the other scripts. We're just going to call it Character.cs. Okay, so here we go. We're going to open the character script, and it should open in Visual Studio if you've got that installed. And it's just a simple mono behavior for now. Here is the script. This is going to be the character script that will be placed on the character object. I'm going to display it just a section at a time, and I want you to get feedback from you if this kind of presentation helps you understand or not. The first section of this script is the using statements, and so that is Unity Engine, and that's needed for just almost everything in Unity. Unity Engine.scene management, that is for loading a new scene, and Unity Engine.ui is for handling graphics like for our health bar. So the next piece is the class definition, and it's a public class. The name of it is just character, and it's a mono behavior, which is what most components are that you would add to a game object. I've got 3 variables defined. We have the health, the max health, and the health bar image. I use serialize field in Unity that allows you to have a private variable that is not accessible from outside the script, but is still, you can see it in the inspector and you can assign it in the inspector. And the type of the variable is float for the health and for the max health. Float just means it's a number, but it doesn't have to be a whole number. It can be 1.5 or 0.1, anything like that. And we're going to set both of those default to 100. And then this image is just the image of the health bar. So the first method that we have defined here is the heal method. It's public because we want to be able to access it from outside if needed. Void just means it doesn't return a value, it just does stuff. Heal is the name. It accepts as parameters a float, which is the amount to heal. So heal amount is what I call it. And basically this does just 2 things. It changes the health by adding the heal amount to it. Health plus equals heal amount. And then it says if health is greater than the max health, then the health is equal to the max health. And that just prevents it from going over maximum. Okay, the next one is damage. It's also a public void method. It accepts a float damage amount, and it does basically the opposite. It says health minus equals the damage amount, and then if health is less than or equal to 0, then die. And we will look and see what die does. Here's the method die. All it does is respawn, which is just another method. Structuring it this way for future expansion, so I can make more complex behaviors in the future. I'm just doing it simple today. And so if you respawn, it just does one thing also. Scene manager.load scene, and then in the parentheses is the name of the scene that it's going to load. And the scene manager.getActiveScene parentheses .name is just how you get the name of the current scene. So if you die, it just reloads the current scene. Display health is how we want to make sure that the health bar actually is updated. All this other stuff up until this point doesn't necessarily affect the health bar. We have to make a way for the health bar to display the right amount of health. First of all, just make sure that we have an image for the health bar. And if we don't, log a warning to the console, and then it will exit. It will just return out of this method and not do anything else. But if there is an image, it will use that image and change the fill amount to health divided by max health. Depending on, if your max health is 100 and whatever your regular health is, it has to be less than or equal to 100. It will divide those numbers and it will get a number between 0 and 1. And that fill amount basically represents a percentage of how much health you have. And the last thing is there's the update method. This is a special method that is expected by Unity for game objects that anything that need to do all the time, so every frame, the update method will run, and so it will call our display health method. So that way the health bar is always updated continuously to the right amount. We could perhaps do it a different time. We could say anytime the health changes, then we update the health bar. But this is a simpler way for coding it. We might change it to the other way in a future video. That's the character script. To go with the character script, I also made a damage trigger script. And so this is anytime you have an object that needs to be able to damage a character. It can be a trigger, which means it's like a collider that you can go through, but if you do, it triggers the event. And in this case, it will do damage when you go into this object. It has a using statement, Unity engine, that's all it needs. It's a public class, name of it is DamageTrigger, and it's also a mono behavior. It has one variable, and it's just a float called damage amount, defaulting it to 10, and there's one method, and this is another special method that Unity kind of expects. If you're going to do something like a trigger action, you can use these methods because Unity will call them automatically, like the update. And on trigger stay, what that means is as long as you're inside of a trigger, it doesn't necessarily have to be just when you go in, but on this one, you get damaged as long as you are in the trigger or touching the trigger, you are receiving damage. This on trigger stay has to have a variable that's a collider, and that is just the collider of the other object that is touching the trigger object's collider, and it's just called other. And all we do with that is we check if the other has a game object associated with it. It's not null, and then we set a variable, a character, which is a reference to our other script, a character, and we're going to call it victim character. You can call it whatever you want, and we're going to set it equal to that other, which is the collider's game object, and we're going to get the component of that for that game object that's a character. Now, if there is any other game object that collides with the damager that's not a character, it will not do what's inside this if statement. So only if it's a character will we get in here to line 15, then we'll do victim character.damage, and that's the method that we defined in our character script. Use the damage amount that we've got defined in this script, but we'll multiply it by Time.deltaTime. Anytime you're doing something that could happen continuously every frame, you want to multiply it by how long the frame takes. As your game's running, Unity keeps track of how long each frame takes to go from one frame to the next frame. And if you've got a faster computer or a better graphics card, you will have a higher frame rate, which means you will have less time between frames. If we don't use this Time.deltaTime, then a faster computer, you will get damaged faster. And a slower computer, you'll be damaged slower. But we want the game to play the same, regardless of whether you are using a fast or slow computer, as close to the same as possible. So if you just multiply your damage amount by Time.deltaTime, it will even it out so that the amount of damage that you're receiving is 10, but that 10 will be divided by how long the frame was. So if it's 1 frame per second, which would be unplayably slow, you would get 10 damage in that 1 frame. If it's something else, much less, like 30 frames per second, it would be 10 divided by 30. If it's 50 frames per second, it would be 10 divided by 50, which would be a very small number. But that happens every frame. I'll show you how this works when we test the game out. For the sake of time, I have set up some stuff. I have a lava object that's in the world. It's just a sphere. It's got a sphere collider, but I've checked the trigger checkbox, and I've put my damage. I put the damage trigger script on that object also. If your character enters the object, it starts to get damaged every frame. So let's demonstrate how this works. So here's our character. There is our health bar, and there's the lava blob. So we're going to go over and touch it, and as you can see, the health bar goes down, and it resets. So as soon as it gets down to 0, it reloads the scene. So by the effect of it reloading the scene, you also get your health back to 100%. If you exit the lava blob and you run through it, it only hurts you while you're in it. So that's all there is to it. And in a future video, we might make it a little bit more complex so that you can do more than just get damaged while you're inside of lava. Congratulations for completing part 9 of LewyT Amusement Academy. Thank you for watching. I know this was a long one, but it just took that long for me to teach you about health and damage and health bar and all that. If you learned something here today, share this video with your friends and your frenemies and enemies and even your nemesis. So let's do something a little different this time. Instead of me telling you what I will cover in part 10, I will just list a few things I will be teaching in the future with no promise that it will all be in the very next episode. So here's what I've got coming up. We're going to cover impassable damaging obstacles instead of just the ones you can walk through. A little bit of level design, damage and death sounds and animations, and a delayed respawn mechanic, and to go with that, freeze movement on death so that while there is a delay you're not still walking around.